Hi, I'm Kara, mom of 3, pediatric sleep expert, certified parenting coach, and founder of Well Rested Mama. Welcome to the Unswaddled podcast. Tune in every other week as we chat about baby and toddler sleep solutions, overcoming parenting challenges, and all things messy motherhood. Hello and welcome to this episode of Well Rested Mama Unswaddled. Today we are doing a Q&A. So I have your questions that you guys submitted, whether it was on Instagram, TikTok, we have them all here and we are going to break them down for you and hopefully get you to the other side of your problem. Okay, so the first question is how to stop a 4 to 5 a.m. waking and light sleep until wake up time. So this is kind of a tricky one because all babies wake between 4 and 6 a.m., like every single one of them. Even our big kids, even you or me, right? Like that is the lightest time frame of sleep. If your little one is struggling during this time, it's one of two things. So either they're going to bed overtired, and when that happens, they have a really hard time getting back to sleep during that time, or you are intervening during this time frame and causing that early waking to stick, okay? So those are the two things that you really kind of want to identify and think like, is the wake window before bed too long? Or am I kind of getting a little bit too involved during that time and not really allowing them that chance to fall back asleep? Another thing is you really want to make sure that that sleep environment is set up, because if there's light coming in or anything like that during that light sleep, it's going to distract them, it's going to keep them awake, and it's going to give them a reason to not go back to sleep. So you want to make sure that you are checking that little box off as well so that they're able to fall back asleep during that time. Because as much as that time frame is normal, right? All babies wake, we want them stirring a little bit and going back to sleep. And if that's not happening, you want to check one of those three things. When to start sleep training is 3.5 months too early. So to be completely honest, I will sleep train relatively young. Okay. I would say like 9 weeks is the youngest. But if a baby is that young and we are sleep training, it's because their weight is higher. Okay. So they're over that 12-pound mark. We're focusing on nutrition. So as much as we're able to implement that sleep training, we are prioritizing that nutrition, right? Because when a baby does not weigh 12 pounds or they're not nutritionally ready to sleep through the night, we can't force it. Once they weigh enough, that age is a little bit up there, they're taking full feeds during the day and they're capable of making it through the night without eating, then I will accept that client to sleep train. But ultimately, the rule of thumb is 4 months or 12 pounds, whichever comes first, is totally fine. Dropping a passy for sleep at 2 years old. Okay, so this is a fun one. Dropping the passy, to be honest, is a little bit scarier than like it actually is, right? Like that anticipation buildup is terrifying, right? Like your brain is like, this is going to be miserable. I'm taking away a pacifier, like shit's about to hit the fan. But it's actually not that bad. It's generally the same as sleep training, right? So if a baby falls asleep eating, it's the same thing, right? Like your 2-year-old falls asleep with a passy and you're removing that. So you're looking at that like 3 to 4 night period where you're teaching something new, but they can do it. They learn really fast. And when we took Blakely's passy away, I think she was like 3.5. So she was a little bit older. She struggled a little bit. I actually have it saved in my highlight on my Instagram page. So if you would like to check it out, I always tell people to check it out in private because she is the exorcist in the beginning. And, it's not really great, but it's real and it's raw and it shows you exactly how we did it. We were there for her. We supported her, but she was mad we took her passy away, and that's a valid feeling, right? At 3.5, like, who do you guys think you are? Well, we're your parents and we're here to torture you for the rest of your life. But it went fine. 4 days later, 5 days, whatever. I don't remember. She was totally fine. Never slept with a passy again. Caleb, he was actually 2 years old. We went on vacation. I forgot to pack him passies. Jeff's sister was babysitting and she put him down without it and he never had it again. So every baby's different. I think the 2-year-olds might be easier. I don't know. We've only done it twice. Carter was not a pacifier kiddo. He sucked on his fingers. So that was like a whole nother story. But ultimately, you take it away, implement that sleep training until they fall asleep, constantly showing up, reassuring them that they're okay. They have everything that they need. They're so big. And I think the biggest takeaway is going to be reward them in the morning. Okay. Every morning you're celebrating that full night's sleep without a passy. you're cheering them on, you're telling people about it, whether it's a teacher or grandparent, you're calling, be like, guess what so-and-so did? They slept without their passy all night, right? And then they start to buy in and they get excited about it. So it might be a little bit tough in the beginning, but it won't last long. It's super fast. So, you just have to be consistent, because the biggest mistake you can make is take away that passy, give it a try, and then give it back. Good luck. Transitioning from 2 to 1 nap, can't decide if I should pull the trigger. If you're not sure, it's probably too soon. Going from 2 naps to 1 is a big transition. Hopefully you're on that 2 nap schedule. That is 1 non-restorative nap and 1 restorative nap, because that's like bridging the 2 together, getting you that goal of that 1 3-hour nap during the day. Ultimately, you will be noticing that they're not taking one of those 2 naps at all. They're happy, they're content, they're laying in their crib and they're just looking around, no big deal. Then you can start to entertain that idea, as long as they are at least 16 months. If they're not, I would hold off, because that's truly the sweet spot that we see. I know a lot of daycares do it soon. That's a whole nother thing. But, if you're not sure, you kind of want to take a step back and really figure out if they're ready, because it's more about them than it is about you just making that decision for them. Baby is now sleeping from about 7 or 8 until 4:30 or 5, rescue until 7:30. How can I extend without the rescue? Okay. So this is really going to depend on, are they an independent sleeper? Are they going to bed wide awake at the beginning of bedtime at that 7 to 8 time frame? And are they sleeping independently until that 4:30, 5:30 time? Now, this goes back to my point that all babies wake between 4 and 6 a.m. So if you are assisting and rescuing until 7:30, they're always going to wake up and expect that. The big answer is you have to sleep train until 7:30 if you want them putting themselves back to sleep during that time, because right now, that's their routine. That's their expectation. They're waking up at the time you're coming in, you're rescuing and continuing that night with them. They're not going to change. After a dream feed at 12 pounds, when can you do full-blown sleep training for baby? For this one, once a kiddo is 12 pounds, you really don't need the dream feed. So depending on age, right? Let's say they're 12 pounds and 4 months, I would just do sleep training without the dream feed. If they're 12 pounds and under 4 months, I personally like to keep the dream feed, just because I'm like, why not? It's before you go to bed. It's not that big of a deal. You're adding in that extra feed. If you need to keep the dream feed for, nutritional reasons, pediatrician recommendation, whatever that may be, you're implementing sleep training from the beginning of bedtime. So let's say 7 p.m. until they fall asleep, you're doing the dream feed, and then you're doing sleep training again from that dream feed until 7 a.m. So anytime they wake up after that dream feed before 7 a.m., you're implementing that sleep training again. My 4-year-old dropped their nap. Bedtime's at 7, waking at 5:30. Help. This, you really want to make sure that they're still doing quiet time. They're having that break in their day. You can move bedtime up if you wanted to try a 6 o'clock bedtime and see how that worked. Obviously, you would have to make sure the room is dark and ready to go, because sometimes an earlier bedtime can help that 5:30 wake up time. But I would also be curious to know, are they starting their day at 5:30? Because just because they're waking up at 5:30, all kiddos wake up between 4 and 6. If you're starting their day, they're getting used to that, okay? So now they're starting their day at 5:30, full blown out of the room, TV, whatever you're doing. Even if they had quiet time, that 12-hour day is at 5:30 p.m., right? And if that's unrealistic for you, you have to start their day later in order to keep that 12-hour mark, because that 12-hour mark is super sensitive, especially when they're recently not napping. Another thing you can do is implement the green light, okay? Whether you have the okay to wake clock, that's super easy at Target. Hatch has one. I think a lot of the alarm clocks for kids have them now. Have that light turn green at your wake up time, whether it's 6, 6:30, 7, it doesn't matter. But when that light turns green, that's the time they're allowed to leave the room, and that's going to help kind of reinforce that schedule for them, and you'll start to see them fall back asleep. What to do during the 8 to 10 month sleep regression? Should I wait to sleep train after the sleep regression, or can I do it during? I have a love-hate relationship with this whole concept, because a regression is I honestly think it's just the internet's way of just giving you one more thing to worry about. If you don't have an independent sleeper, you cannot be in a regression. There's nothing to regress from, right? They're not sleeping. So it's hard for me to compare that and be like, oh yes, this is what's happening, because they're not an independent sleeper. Now, if you had an independent sleeper that was sleeping 12 hours a night, perfect naps, and something felt off, maybe we can acknowledge that as a regression. When a regression is happening, it's because something else developmentally is happening and they're progressing in some way, whether they're, starting to walk or run or jump or do something. They have a new skill that's happening. It can interfere sleep. But again, that interference is usually only very apparent in independent sleepers. So my advice would be to just jump in the sleep training and just get to the other side so that you can truly identify, is a regression happening or is this just your life right now? 6-month-old is sleeping really well at night in her own room and in a crib. We sleep trained her based on your YouTube video. So thank you so much. Yay. If you haven't checked that out, please do. We break it down for you guys. She still does all her daytime naps on my chest, full contact. After 2 weeks of it going well at night, I started to do the same routine for nap 1 of the day, but she will not go to sleep and screams and cries for 30 minutes. Is there a different method for naps? Okay. There is not a different method for naps. Kiddos, just across the board, fight daytime sleep, right? It's natural, it's daytime, FOMO, they don't, right? That timing matters. So although you're using that same sleep training technique, consistency is so important because nights come together so fast. I mean, you're talking oh my gosh, by night 3, you're this is working, it's amazing. Naps can take 2 to 3 weeks, and that is still if you've been 100% on the whole time. It's harder to lock in, but the consistency is so important because you're sticking to that same schedule. You are sleep training every single nap for that entire duration of their daytime schedule. Meaning if you place them down at 9 o'clock, the nap's supposed to be 2 hours. Let's say you sleep train for the first 30 minutes, they fall asleep. Great, they're sleeping. They wake up, 40 minutes later, you're sleep training again. They fall back asleep. You're getting them up at 11, right? So no matter what happens during that scheduled nap time, if they're sleeping, amazing. If they're awake, you're sleep training. And then once you get them up, regardless of what happened, you're sticking to that scheduled time of nap 2. So it's really important that you're going through the day, you're focused on the sleep training, and that you are consistent because that's how it's going to click. All babies are different. So some are going to learn really fast and some are going to take that full 2 to 3 weeks. We don't know, but the more consistent you are, the faster it's going to fall into place. Also, that room needs to be pitch black. Make sure the air is down, do a mini bedtime routine, help them identify sleep is coming because that's going to help a ton too. Thoughts on swaddle to sleep sack progression based on age, method, and brands you recommend? It's not really age, it's development, okay? The second you start to see your baby trying to roll, even if they're getting halfway, the swaddle's got to go, right? It's not safe. God forbid, you do not want them flipping over in a swaddle. That is literally worst nightmare status. Once you see that happening, you want them in that traditional sleep sack. There are transitional products you can use. My kids loved the Zippity Zip, which was that flying squirrel situation. Dreamland Baby makes a ton now that are transitional. I mean, they're out there. In regards to which one's my favorite, they're all kind of the same in my opinion. As long as the baby's safe to roll in it, it protects from that startle reflex. They're not too hot. Check the tog, right? Just make sure all that's good. But again, they're all fine as long as, you are transitioning because like I said, you notice that rolling's happening or starting to roll. The baby's even thinking about rolling. You want to make that switch. 3-month-old only sleeps 30 to 40 minutes in naps. What to do with the rest of the allotted nap time? She also doesn't go to sleep on her own for the naps, but will at night. How can I get her to fall asleep on her own? Only wants to be held. This is very normal because a sleep cycle is 40 to 50 minutes. So by the time you're assisting your little one to sleep, laying them down, right? You really only have 30 or 40 minutes left before they're going to wake up again. So you have 2 options. You could connect that sleep cycle for them. So whatever you're doing to get them to fall asleep at the beginning of that nap, do it again halfway through after they wake up, or sleep train. You can sleep train naps. If they're independent sleepers at night, do the same thing that you did for naps. Like I said a couple questions ago, is implement that sleep training. Stick to that schedule. Make sure you're being consistent because that's how they are going to learn. 3 months old is a little young, okay? I don't love nap training before 5 months. So that's where I would say assist them back to sleep, connect those sleep cycles, because if you're not doing that, you want to make sure you're adjusting those wake windows correctly because now you're messing with moving feeds too close together and it can kind of get a little bit messy. So if you can rescue the nap and just put them back down, that's all considered the same nap. You help them connect the sleep cycle, but the sleep cycle was connected so that restorative sleep came into play. My daughter just turned 2 and her sleep is getting worse. I did your program when she was 16 months old and she slept for 3 months, but now wakes up screaming 1.5 to 2 hours after going to bed. She will scream and cry for hours until we put her in our bed. We've tried everything and it's all getting worse. She now sleeps with us when she wakes up, but still wakes up like every hour yelling no. She moves constantly to the point where my husband now sleeps in our guest bed. She is taking over our life. Help. I plan on reaching out again, but we're moving in a new house. My guess would be the schedule's off during the day. Okay. Sleep training works, right? Obviously, as you said, she was sleeping great for 3 months. Something happened to derail that. Okay. Once a kiddo gets any glimpse of change in that routine, they're going to run with it. Right. So with that being said, that wake up an hour and a half to 2 hours after bedtime tells me she's going to bed overtired. So that's where that nap is really important. At this age, you want a 3-hour nap during the day, a 4-hour wake window before bed. If you're exceeding that, you're getting those false starts, which is exactly what you're seeing. Now, that's one thing. The second thing is the false starts happening, but a response is happening during that. So when you are experiencing that and you're not going back to the basics of the sleep training and you're bringing her to your bed, you just unlocked a whole new level, right? Like she has gone to the next level of her game. She won and she's just going higher, right? So now she wakes up and her brain's like, well, this is when I go in their bed, right? And obviously she's not sleeping amazing when she's in your bed either. So you want to go back to you are implementing the sleep training. You're showing her that you guys are still there. You're still coming if she needs you, but she has no business being in your bed. She doesn't need to be in your bed. So that is where you want to break that. So going back to the basics of the sleep training is going to push you through that, but also focusing on the daytime sleep to make sure she's not going to bed overtired is really important because it's going to get rid of that false start and it's going to minimize those night wakings that are happening so frequently, even once she's in your bed. And of course, if you're still struggling after the move, reach out. We have options for returning clients for additional support, and we can definitely help you out. A 4-month-old baby goes to bed on his own and connects sleep cycles, sleeps really well until 4 a.m. and then very noisy and constantly waking up at 7 a.m. Doing max 1.5 hour wake windows and your suggested 1 hour wake window before bed after last cat nap. I really don't think he's overtired and he goes back to sleep during this early morning, but he's just so loud and sometimes awake for 30 to 40 minutes before going back to sleep. I don't intervene, but it wakes me up. Since room sharing, is this normal and will it get better? First off, 4 months old, wake windows should be 2 hours. So they're a little bit short, which could be playing a part. You definitely want to make sure that he's taking full feeds during the day because with an hour and a half wake window, depending on how long he's sleeping, there's a chance that feeds are too close together. So that could be like part of it. It's normal for, babies to wake between 4 and 6 a.m. My full advice is to fix the daytime schedule and move him into his own room if you're comfortable with that, because babies are loud sleepers and you are also a loud sleeper. So we don't realize how much we affect each other during that time. But when he's in his light sleep, it's normal that he's in and out of sleep during that time, but it might make it a little bit easier for him if he has his own space. My baby will only contact nap and I'm over it. I can't get anything done. Preach. I hear that. He's 13 weeks. I've been practicing crib naps since 6 weeks. He still only makes it about 20 minutes. So if I do mostly crib naps and 1 contact nap in a day, he's taking a million naps. If the nap's only lasting 20 minutes, that's telling me the wake window is off. You really want to make sure you're using the correct wake windows for him. When it comes to practicing in the crib, that is great, right? You're exposing him to that. But if he's not going into the crib awake, you can't expect him to extend that nap because it's normal that he's waking up in the middle of that nap. But if he's not able to put himself back to sleep, he's not going to do it. So contact naps, again, if a contact nap is short, it's a timing issue. So I would encourage you to honestly reach out so that we can help you figure out what that schedule needs to look like, because something is off here. I would say at this age, 3 to 4 naps max for him. It really just depends on where he is at that 13-week mark. More scheduling issue than it is his ability is what my gut is telling me with this one. For the last question we have, what do you suggest babies who are too big for bassinets sleep in while traveling? If it's a little one who's still in a crib, I would use a pack and play. Okay. There's obviously tons of different options for that. I mean, a pack and play is suitable for a little one, probably close to 3. They're pretty big. They have room to move around. If they're older kiddos, obviously yours is not, but just tagging on to this. If they're older, there's toddler air mattresses that you can use. The biggest goal is just making sure that they have their own sleep space, especially if they're an independent sleeper, but also for safety. That's it for today. We will definitely do another one of these soon, and we'll be sure to let you guys know so you can submit more questions. Next episode, we are going to be chatting with Michelle, who has been working with me. She is a women's wellness coach, and she is all about the mamas, perimenopause, menopause, all the things, and she's been super amazing. So I cannot wait to chat with her for you guys so you guys can learn more about her and what we've been doing. Make sure you're following along here and on Instagram. We are always here to support you guys, whether it's in a DM, a comment, or of course, one-on-one support. We have free consult calls that you guys can schedule so we can answer your questions about sleep training, but also help you identify if it's a right fit for you and what level of support would be best for you and your situation.